Taylor Outdoors. I'm Ben, and today I got my friend Shelby here, and we've been training together for 6+ years or so, and we've learned a lot, and we've messed up a lot, so we're here to try to help you with learning some marking concepts that we've learned through training together, training with other pros, training with other groups. So that's kind of what we're trying to help you do.
In these marking setups, if you don't have your dog fairly well versed on them, you just will not be competitive in the dog sport.
Yeah. So
this is probably the most common, well-known marking setup, I would think.
I would agree. And I've seen this marking concept in finish test, master test. We've seen it
Opens.
derbies, opens.
You look at it quiet and open, and I guarantee probably 2 of the marks are going to be a hip pocket.
I would agree. So the hip pocket normally is you've got a gunner throwing into the quote-unquote the hip pocket, the hip pocket of your long gun. Mm-hmm. So then you gotta.
So as we explain this marking concept, we're going to reference this. We have 3 different wind scenarios. We have our A for downwind, and B for your cross, and C for your cross, and B would obviously be going left to right, and C would be going right to left.
Yes.
But I'm not any good at wind. I get in trouble all the time with wind. I don't know I have a problem with it. So Ben knows a little bit more about wind. He can explain it better.
Try to help y'all out. With a downwind is probably going to be the better wind to train on when you have really young dogs. You're trying to teach this concept.
I would say any dog that's not very experienced in this should have downwind. I mean, even when you're training older experienced dogs, sometimes you have to do it downwind because you have other marks that are more crucial to learn on. I mean, downwind is just really the best way to train.
You got to remember too, sometimes the field you get into might not allow you to have a downwind because you can't get access to it or something like that to be able to drive in.
Well, then maybe you should do it different. I don't know.
There's times that you may be trying to get out and train and you want to work on the hip pocket and you get into a crosswind situation. It's kind of similar to like B here, which is that left to right. So I normally would train on this as singles to help that out. So when you're looking at your memory bird and you're throwing it as an actual true double, the biggest thing you're going to have to worry about in that crosswind is this short bird, because there's going to be scent here from the time that they picked it up the first.
It's an old fall.
Yeah,
they have to run past an old fall.
Exactly. Thank you. They have to run past the old fall, and that wind is blowing bird scent, whatever.
One time, Proof in a derby, it was a similar kind of setup, and there were actual feathers in the wind that they had to run through to get to the long bird.
So,
and it was, yeah.
So that crosswind, that left to right type crosswind for this setup would be extremely hard. So if you could, and you only had a crosswind, you could set it up for a crosswind for training to be better for a young dog. I would try to probably set it up with the crosswind that's going right to left. You're going to still have a little bit of an influence from this old fall, but the wind isn't going to be, you don't have 2 factors pulling them back into this old fall. You want them to run straight to their bird. So we'll talk about that here in a second when we start really getting into like our training. So like if I was doing this for puppies, you want to talk about puppies first?
Well, shall we just start with the training of this concept from like the beginning?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I would say, the one thing of advice I've gotten that's really helped out is someone told me that when they're very young, even 8 weeks old, you should start having guns all over the field so that they learn to look past the short gun or to look out long or whatever. It gets them very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So in this respect, I mean, you can have an 8-week-old puppy and you could just have, out in the yard, 10 yards here and 20 yards here. I mean, the basic concept is that they've got to look past this and they've got to, but no matter what, you would do it as singles.
Yes, always. I mean, for puppies, I would...
For any unexperienced dog, you should start it out as singles.
Yeah, inexperienced dog always started off as singles. That's how I like to teach marking concepts. Personally, is I would start off throwing the short bird and then throw the long bird as singles. So, and then I would come back the next day and I would maybe run the long bird as a single and then run the short bird as second as
I
a single.
completely disagree with you.
Okay.
Because, well, the reason why I say this is because on this long bird, when they're running them as singles and you're trying to teach them to look long, if you rewarded them with that short bird first, then they learn to always look short.
Okay.
So I would actually always start with the long bird at the beginning so that they learn to look past that short bird, because their focus is going to be so much on this.
Yeah.
And they have to learn this. So I wouldn't really reward them for looking short.
Okay. Well, that makes sense to me.
Now,
So
in this respect, it might be very hard to get them to look long. And
but you can use your bird boy or your wingers
Yes.
to make sound like on their wingers, or you have the bird boy out there going hey, hey, hey,
right.
getting them to look out.
And as soon as that bird hits the ground, or even kind of halfway to where it's going to hit the ground, I would definitely release the young pup.
Yeah.
So that they are completely
focused on that one.
Exactly.
So then we'll talk about actually running this now as a double. So the way I probably would teach it is
Spread out.
is one, make sure it's spread out, but they can still see the concept, but it's spread out so that the chances of them switching or returning to the old fall are slimmer. I
Yeah,
guess you
because
could
we
say.
do want success when we're teaching these dogs these concepts. I mean, once they understand what is expected of them, then things change. But right now, we're all about success. Look what we're doing. How fun. you know.
Exactly. So when you start getting them into running what I call simple doubles, and this is not simple. I'm talking simple doubles that are like 180 degrees apart type thing. After they've started getting better at that, and you can get into running these true marking concepts, the way I like to do it is I'll teach them their memory bird. So I'll throw that as a single, let them pick it up, come back, and then we'll set it up and actually run a true double. So the go bird would be your short gun, and then the memory bird that you taught is now a memory bird. So that's
They've
how I
already
like.
been there,
Yes,
too.
they've already been there.
So it helps reinforce.
So then they can learn how this actual marking concept works without trying to beat them up for returning to an old fall. They've already learned where that other mark was. So, and as they get better with that, don't throw the memory bird as a single before you start running it as a double. Turn around and run it as a true double when you think they're starting to get that concept.
Oh yeah, because you need to wean them off of the help.
Exactly. So then as you start to get more advanced, start getting them, because this is actually fairly tight.
Yeah, what we drew here is tight.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it would be more like here and way
over
here
here.
or something
Exactly.
like that. But now that now that we've started to tighten them up, there's a couple different things that we can do to help reinforce that memory bird if we don't throw it as a single first.
Exactly.
So, one of the main things I would say is to have your dog come out, and you want it to focus on the long bird first, because that's the bird that's going to go off first. And you might have your gunner just not throw. He pretends to throw.
Gives a fake throw.
Yeah, a fake throw. And then your dog, and one interesting thing that I've noticed about this, and this is a good thing for head swinging, for some reason, when there's a fake throw, 9 out of 10 dogs will not head swing. They just stare like, where's the bird?
Yeah,
like they know that they haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that's wonderful, because then you're not teaching them to swing over to that short bird right away.
Yeah, that's actually a really good tip. You can have a fake throw on this long bird, and the dog won't actually see the bird, so they're like, where's it
And don't
at?
worry, we'll explain.
It's kind of like, where's it at? So they'll actually watch that
For
gunner
a long time,
a
they'll
lot longer
focus. Yes.
and focus, and then you'll get them to swing towards the short bird, throw it. So when you want them to come back from the short bird, get back to the line and look out at their gunner. So when they get out and see the gun, or they see the long bird, then that's when you're going to signal for your bird boy, or you're going to hit your winger to release the bird. But you want to do it as silent. Is that what you were wanting to say?
Yeah, you would have a silent throw, and you want your dog to come in. First off, when your dog comes back with this retrieve, you should have your body, everything lined up for the dog to be ready and prepared to go get this mark.
Yeah.
Like, don't faddle around at the line, because this dog...
Because you're burning memory.
Yes, and this dog really needs to focus on this long bird.
Yeah.
So once you've got your dog settled down and he's looking long, if he's looking all around that's not very good. You know, you might have to have your gunner make some noise, go hey, hey. And then once your dog has got himself focused on this, and hopefully he's already focused on this, then you want to reinforce it and say, good,
exactly,
good. And of course, the guy will throw, and as soon as it starts to hit, you want to send the dog, especially when it's first learning.
Young dog, and also as you get more advanced into this, then you can start to tighten your gunners up, which we kind of talked about earlier. And you can, because maybe when you're starting out as a puppy, because this is actually a very tight setup that we drew. But if you had a young dog, you might have your short gun way over here, but your long gun way out here. So it's more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing is, as you get more advanced, you can start to tighten these marks up and make them a little bit more challenging. Which when you start getting more challenging, there's a few things that you're going to probably end up seeing your dog probably do. Which the biggest one and the worst thing you can see have your dog do is return to an old fall. If you return to an old fall in a hunt test, there's a very good chance that you're not going to pass because you couldn't remember your bird. And to get them out of that at a hunt test or even at a field trial, at an old fall, actually in a field trial, that's a disqualifying factor, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, when you said there's a good chance you won't get called back, I was like, there's a good chance you need to pick up your dog.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the judges, I've been at derbies where I've seen the judges walk up and say, can you pick up your dog? Because I guess the handler didn't realize that the dog was just hunting the heck out of the old fall.
Oh.
But the interesting thing is, when you use a win scenarios like win A, that's why it helps with learning, because the chances that the dog is going to win the old fall with scenario A are less.
Yes. So if you get into like B, which is that left to right wind.
I mean, that's just mean. That's for a young dog, that's like somebody that doesn't like dogs.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
It's a very difficult concept because this fall has got, especially if you get into like a big hunt test or a big field trial where there's multiple birds and you're one of the last dogs to run, there's so much scent right there in that bottom.
And you've got to remember, some of the flyers can get far away. I mean, now the dog's got to really, it's got a wide flyer, it's got to run really close.
Yeah, if you're talking live flyer, but even if it's just a dead bird, somebody throwing just a dead bird right there.
For sure.
There's still a ton of scent area right here that can suck a young dog right back into the old fall.
And I'm just saying, for your reference, in a derby, this is a very typical first series, and this would be a flyer.
Yes.
I mean, this is very typical. I even judged derby, and we did a series like this. So, I mean, yeah.
If y'all don't realize, Shelby's more of the field trial person. I'm more the hunting and the hunt test person, but we still train it as much as we can because I train to more of a field trial type standard, I guess I could say.
Well, I don't know that I would necessarily, I just feel like marking concepts are marking concepts. So whatever game you're playing, you basically have to have a foundation of knowledge that's shared by both venues.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. So that's why a reason why we're trying to do this is so everybody can kind of learn.
Right.
And
definitely.
So when you get into this, like I said, that worst thing that you could do is
set your dog up for
failure.
Yeah. We're trying to do everything for success.
Exactly.
And, also with scenario C, there is a possibility that with that wind pushing, a lot of dogs might be sucked back to an old fall, but they know they're not supposed to go back to an old fall. They can't help themselves. So what they might do, especially with that wind pushing, they might go like this, right past it, so they can still be close to it, but now they put themselves behind the gun.
Behind the gun on the long gun.
Mm-hmm.
So like Shelby was saying, when you get into these wind situations and the dog may, like we said with Charlie, is going that right to left wind and your dog ends up behind the gun, is what that will be telling the judges is that your dog isn't marking the bird. They're just marking the gunner. They're being lazy.
Yeah, they're lazy. They're falling into all the different factors instead of just saying, okay, I'm laser focused on what that mark is.
So, and I will say when your dog gets behind the gun on this, they're normally going to just turn right around and go probably pick up the bird. If they set up a hunt, it's not going to take them long to get back over to that bird.
Because the wind. I mean, the wind is, they're going to wind it from this side, But Also another thing, a lot of times, even in higher all age stakes or whatever, it will still be downwind because the judges really want to but you also have a lot of terrain that affects the tests or your training setup. So wind is not only the factor on how the dog is going to get to the mark.
Because there's a bunch of different factors that'll influence the dog.
Let's just say there's a tree right here.
Yeah.
And the dog doesn't want to go between this tree and he picks the wrong side. And now he's got the tree and the suction and he wants to go up there. And there's just a lot of, and if that wind isn't going that way and they're here, they're downwind. I've seen dogs just go ahead and go right back because they just can't find the bird and they don't understand why. Because they didn't mark it well enough and they're stuck.
And if you had put that in, you put this test on like a side hill, and you've got a dog that doesn't know how to negotiate an angle across that side hill, they may blow right past the bird just to get to the top of the hill, and they'll hunt up top.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, or they'll stay at the bottom and not drive up the hill.
Right.
Kind of like they'll hit kind of like the toilet bowl. They'll just run all the way around it.
Yep, for sure.
So the wind, you've got to be able to train on these concepts on different terrain. Use some
wind
trees,
factors.
wind factors.
Anything that your mind can dream up
and
is probably beneficial.
You know what I just thought of? Probably one of the hardest water marking concepts is a 2 down the shore, which is a hip pocket.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So that could be.
And that used to be standard.
Yeah.
You couldn't even go to a derby without
I just thought about that. Like it was literally like
you're right.
this is a hip pocket.
And see, this is why we like each other, because we always talk about this crap. Because neither one of us knew anything before, and we just keep talking it out like a math problem or something.
And it's literally when she and I get together to train, it'll take us 45 minutes sometimes to get a setup in, to figure out what we're going to set up. Now, when we get out to go train, we're done in like 15. We're done in 15 minutes with the dogs.
Part of this is what I like about being an amateur and learning, and it's fun. Because I like to figure stuff out. So this is an interesting thing. Now, here's what we need to talk about next. I really do think we need to talk about how to help your dog if he does fall victim to the factors.
Yeah. So some things that we're going to now talk about.
Wrong. We talked about. Now we're going to talk about how to handle those situations.
Exactly. So my favorite way to handle situations like returning to an old fall, especially with a young dog, I don't want to burn them on this short bird. So I'm going to have that gunner out there just, hey, with another bird or a bumper in their hand, because we know we're training a young dog. Well, so they'll already have that ready, and I'm just going to try to get them to, as soon as they turn around and see it, that bird boy is going to have to pay attention to the dog. And then as soon as they see that the dog's looking at them, throwing another bird.
You did that with Shelly all the time. Constantly, because we just wanted them to understand that we want them to go past that short
fall.
So
even though they did return it to that old fall, and it's not a good thing, we're not going to just destroy them.
The dog doesn't know it's not a good thing.
Exactly.
We have to teach it it's not a good thing.
Exactly. So that's what I would prefer to do with a young dog. You maybe want to try to talk about something with a little more older dog that's been a little more conditioned to this setup. Would you burn, or would you end up handling?
I would never, I don't think, that's a tricky one because, future down the line, the short retired is often said to be the very hardest bird in a trial. Or in a hunt test, anything. And the interesting thing about a hip pocket is oftentimes it's completely incorporated into multiple birds.
Exactly.
So you could have a triple with, your other bird way over here, but you still got this hip pocket. But if you had a triple, let's just say you had a triple and you had one out to this side, well, this now has become, even though it's a hip pocket, this is your short retired.
Yeah.
So dogs don't like that. They get nervous being around there. I don't really understand why yet. I haven't figured that part out. But I do know that if you put too much pressure on the dog around here, then the dog will never want to go to the short bird, which is the problem. But on the other hand, there's only really, 2 things that can get you kicked out of a field trial? Switching and coming back with nothing.
And that's the same pretty much at a hunt test as well. If you switch birds
or come back
with nothing,
then you're automatically disqualified. Those are your 2 things you really can't work your way out of.
Yeah.
If every single dog in the trial did that, we would have nothing. That would be the only time you would have nothing, because those two things are like that bad. But on the other hand, you know, your dog is switching. You might want to think about it. I mean,
may want to bring them back.
Just recently, one of the greatest trainers that I get lucky to train with, he just recently told me, after what, 40 years he's been doing this, sometimes you might let your dog hunt the area. I mean, he's like 6 months old. Maybe he needs to be in that area and get it out of his head. Look, buddy, there's nothing there.
Exactly.
You know, you already picked it up.
I didn't even think about that, because it's like, you can go and hunt there all day long. You're never going to find a bird until you get out here. Right.
Exactly. Now, I guess for an older dog, one that has, because since we're still training, we're still teaching the dog how to do this. I would say an older dog, it's very beneficial if the dog knows how to handle. That would be a better time to start tightening up the marks. To be an easier way to correct the dog to cast without getting too much into collar pressure at the short gun. So if your dog was going to return back to that fall, and you kind of knew it, I mean, you could just bring the dog back and then say, why even waste your time before you just be like, no, come here. Now we're going to refocus. At that point, I would have the gunner rethrow the bird.
Yes.
Because you already know the dog has lost focus on what he needs to do. There's no point in resending him to
Yeah.
But then also, let's say your dog looks like it's going to go here, and then all of a sudden it gets out here and it starts to go right to that bird.
You can have the bird boy start.
You could stop your dog. And you could blow your whistle, which is a huge form of pressure for a dog. The dog doesn't want to stop what it's doing. Blow your whistle. The dog sits. You have it focused in on you. Then you could either go ahead and cast the dog to where the bird is. Sometimes it's good to have the gunner say, hey, while you're casting the dog. That way the dog says, I hear something, I know it's up there, oh, jog my memory, I'm taking your cast. We're all reinforcing, get your booty up to that one area. And I mean, you can't.
So if we haven't said it before, it's this mark, your memory mark, that long bird, that is the whole part of this test. So,
well, in a double.
In a double, yes.
Yes, in a double.
And the way this is set up, this is your go bird. This is just burning memory so that they can't remember where the long bird is. We've kind of talked about this is the main part of your test. Now, you can also do what they call a reverse hip pocket, which would be the gun is right here where the birds are landing on our X's. Put your gun there and throw from...
Well, now you're just throwing into it like that.
Yeah, so you're throwing right to left instead of left to right. So now that's what we call a reverse hip pocket. Some others may call it a hip pocket.
Yeah, I don't know.
The terminology.
But the point is on this scenario, he's throwing it into the long gun's hip pocket. In this scenario, he's throwing it into the short gun's
hip pocket. Yes.
Right. And that really creates a whole different... I feel like that's even harder than this.
Oh yeah, that's a lot harder. But we just wanted to mention that, so then if you have any questions or anything like that, comment them down below. And
well, wait a minute, Ben.
No, if you have some questions, just comment them down below, and we'll try to get to you and try to answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll text Shelby, and she maybe even jump on and comment for them as well.
Well, but what I was going to say is, you have to train a whole other way on this.
Yeah.
Now we got to train where this bird is not the crucial bird.
Yeah.
Now we're going to throw this bird as your go bird.
Ah, okay. That's what you're getting into. So now that short bird is then the memory bird, and really hard.
This is hard, but you have to know this. Now I would feel like definitely being more spread out would help. Because even in a test, I've been to a couple tests where they've done it that way, and I mean it's really hard for some of these dogs, because now they've got to run past a bird that's already on the ground. It's just sitting there, and it's closer, and that takes a lot of discipline. I mean, a lot of discipline.
Yeah, it's more of a punch bird, and that's different.
But I would definitely whenever you do something like this as in a double, it is good to go back and maybe just do it the opposite
way. And that's what I was trying to get at is, the reverse hip pocket has different factors in it compared to the
You'll
normal
see a
hip
lot
pocket.
of different stuff.
You'll see a lot of different stuff. So it's just putting that out there for you. So
you have different ways of training.
Yeah, exactly.
Because obviously you're gonna have like the best dog after doing all this stuff, and now we gotta give you stuff.
I'm not gonna call it the best dog because guess what? We're not pros.
We're not even like we don't know anything.
But hey, if y'all really like the way we're talking and having a conversation, y'all go ahead and hit that thumbs up for us as well. And if y'all really, really like these videos, go ahead and subscribe because we're going to try to do a few more of these. And also,
we'll take this out into the field.
Yeah, we're going to take this out into the field and actually run Belle or you
I don't have my dogs right now.
Your dogs are up north.
It's too hot down here
your dogs
in
are up
Georgia.
north. So it'll probably end up being Belle, but we're going to get out and actually, so that'll be part 2 of this, is we're going to get out and kind of talk about some of the stuff, the factors that we had.
And you can see it in action.
And set it in the field and see it in action. And we're going to do some more different concepts in this similar thing. So like I said, if you want to see and learn more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. So we want to thank y'all for watching, and remember, their season never ends.